Hi, everyone. I'm Christy Forsyth with Clarity by Christy. This is your weekly reading where we talk all about what's happening in the collective energy, the energy that is impacting and influencing each and every one of us, and how we can make the most of it. So we're going to talk about what I'm feeling in this energy, what messages I have connected to in regard to this energy, and how you can use this energy so that you can have the best week ever. So we're going to be talking about all of that. We're going to be talking about the messages that I have connected with, what I'm feeling, and then we will follow that all up with a tarot reading. I have already pre-shuffled the deck. Make sure that you stick around so that you can get all of the messages. I find that the tarot cards allow me to just build on the messages that much more, and it completes the reading. So make sure that you check that out. How's everybody feeling? How's everybody doing in this energy? Make sure you say hello, whether you're watching live or on the replay. I always like to know who's watching, even if you just hit me with like a emoji or something, or a hashtag replay, whatever you want to say, but just let me know that you're watching so that I know who is tuning in. I always love to hear people will contact me or connect with me and they're like, oh, I watch your readings all the time. But it's nice to hear, and it's nice to see you guys show up in the comments. So let's talk about this energy, because this is important. Are you guys feeling it? It's like there are things that are happening and developing within us. I feel like there's a lot of creative energy right now. And that creative energy is meant to spark us. It's meant to help us to begin to take steps in a specific direction, or to build upon something that we're already working on. Hi, Pat. Nice to see you here. Or whatever this is. But I want you to notice the ways that you're feeling inspired this week. I've had some really great conversations with people today, just today alone, where we're talking about their ideas and where their intuition is leading them and what's happening and how they're feeling called to be creative, and where potentially this is leading into a bigger picture situation. Now, you might not understand where the steps that you're being led down, or the path that you're being led down, where that's leading, but your job is just to take the steps. Your job is to pay attention to how you're feeling led. Somebody that I just had I had a session with, was saying, part of me feels like, and I said, what part of you do you think that is? Whenever we're saying something that is part of me feels like, or I don't know why, but that is your intuition. And when you honor your intuition, when you trust your intuition and you move accordingly, you're never going to regret that. That is coming from a place of a higher perspective. That's coming from something so much greater than you, that sees the big picture, that knows where you're going, that has a sense of all of that. So I want you to honor that. And by the way, that will feel like it comes from a place of either neutral energy or excitement even. Typically, when it feels like fear, that's either we feel the intuition and then we start to freak out because we have a sense of where we need to go, and that's scary and intimidating to us, or we will, sorry, I got distracted by the comments. Hi, Ward. Nice to see you here. So we will, I don't know what I was saying. Sorry. Intuition. So it'll feel like that. Or if it feels like a strong fear, typically that's your fear. And a lot of times I was talking about this a couple of weeks ago, can be in that place where we convince ourselves that the fear that we're feeling, or the ways that we're holding ourselves back, is our intuition, because our fear, our ego, loves to keep us in what's familiar to us, in our comfort zone. And I think that this week, this energy is encouraging us to continue to move beyond that comfort zone, to continue to expand, to grow, to stretch ourselves, to try new things, to follow where our flow is leading us. Following our flow is so important here. And where I think that our flow, our intuition is leading us, is it's inviting us, and I heard this crystal clear when I was connecting with what this energy was this week. it's leading us to a place where we have to, or we are being invited to, put ourselves out there in some way. So I want you to ask yourself that question. And you might not know today. I'm recording this on the 10th, June 10th. So this is Tuesday. You might not know today, but how are you feeling called to put yourself out there? And I think that that is going to become more clear as the week progresses. We have a full moon coming tomorrow on the 11th. It is a full moon in Sagittarius. And so part of what that full moon is highlighting for us is how are we feeling called to put ourselves out there? Now, that could mean so many different things. And I leave that open-ended on purpose because that's going to look really different for each and every one of you. This is not a personal reading. This is a collective reading. And so you take what resonates with you and you leave the rest, but you connect with it in the ways that it connects for you. Maybe there's something that you felt called to say, a boundary that you felt called to set. Maybe you're starting something new and you're a little hesitant to put yourself out there. I filmed another tree whisperer video this week where I ask the trees to connect with my energy and to move toward me. And they're always, I just love them because I think that they're so much fun. And I think it's really magical the way that that always worked. Somebody, by the way, asked me, check it out in my shorts and my reels if you didn't catch that. But somebody asked me who was moving the branch. And the truth of the matter is, on God, it moved itself. And that's always what happens. I never fake those videos or anything like that. I would never do that. But it's really magical, and there's so much magic in the world. But anyway, my point is, I've been just feeling this pull. For me personally, what this looks like for me is to put myself out there in a way that is just creating more content, putting more things out there. And it feels kind of silly to make those videos, but I also really love them. And I think that it's really fun and funny and silly, and I don't take myself too seriously. And so there was a small little part of me that was hesitant to share that, but I know that people love those, and I know that people have fun with those. And so that was one of the ways that I felt called to put myself out there. So maybe you're in a position where you're feeling like you need to make some videos, share some feelings in some way, or write some posts up, or however, whatever that is for you. But where are you feeling called to put yourself out there? Maybe putting yourself out there is just simply a shift where you're letting yourself be seen more in some way. I feel like for a lot of people, this is about being more seen, letting our armor down. But this also can be putting ourselves out there in a position where we maybe feel more vulnerable. Maybe there's like a relationship or something that you feel pulled to, but that's felt scary for one reason or another. And this week is the invitation to put yourself out there anyway, to make yourself vulnerable. After I heard that, I also heard no risk, no reward. So take that however you want to take that. But there's some kind of risks that we're being invited to take. We are being encouraged to move out of our comfort zone, even if it's just a little bit, to move out of the familiar, even if it's just a little bit, so that we can continue to progress and continue to move. Because this year, the energy is moving rapidly. Do you see that? Do you see how time feels different? Have you noticed that? We are collapsing timelines left and right. So what that really means is that we're moving through things. And as we focus on ourselves, as we focus on our higher guidance, and we let that move us through that, we are moving into spaces where it's easier to access the higher level manifestations that we want to create. And so we want to allow that, but you might notice that sometimes time feels slowed down, or sometimes time feels like it's moving faster. And that's because we're collapsing timeline. That's an indication for you that you are collapsing timelines and that you're working toward your highest timeline, that you are working toward becoming the best version of yourself and developing yourself. Mario is saying no risk, no reward. I feel that right now. Yeah, no risk, no reward. So I want you to think about what is the risk that you're being invited to take. And like I said, sometimes that risk is not this big major thing that other people will even notice. It might be this little win that you know for you is a big deal, that you know for you is a big step. But how are you feeling called to put yourself out there? I also heard get out of your head and get into action. So we're definitely being encouraged to be in action this week. And that action might be putting ourselves out there in some way. There might be other ways that we're feeling called to do that. So taking action, maybe it's saying the thing that we need to say, taking something to a new level, putting the effort in, whatever that looks like for you. I also got the sense this week, we are in Gemini season, and sometimes I find that the shadow aspect of Gemini season, hi Prakash, nice to see you here, is that if we are not careful, we can say things in such a way that we don't mean or we don't want to say them. And this is a time for us to communicate. I've been talking about that for over a month now, because I feel like communication is very strong and it's very important right now. But you also want to be mindful about the way that you communicate, because I do feel like in the shadow aspect of this energy, if you're not careful, you can have a sharper tongue than you would intend. That you can say things in a way that are more harsh than you would like to say them. And so you want to really be mindful about how am I feeling as I'm communicating, and be in charge of that, because you might need to just take a little break before you communicate something. You are definitely going to want to be intentional in the words that you use and in the way that you communicate. So making sure that you are saying things or saying what's necessary without cutting people. I had, the reason that I say this is I had that image of a sword, and a sword can be, it's representative of thoughts and thinking and communication in the tarot. And swords can also be used to cut things out of our lives. But we want to make sure that we do that without that being painful to other people or damaging to other people. So this full moon is also this invitation to recognize truth, to recognize the clarity that is coming through, and where things may need to be cut or changed in some way, transformed in some way, or communicated about in some way. So I want you to just notice like what is coming up for you. I also had some questions come through, and I think that these questions are things that especially this week around this full moon that we're going to be reflecting on. So the first one is, so it looks like, by the way, we're going to be asking ourselves a lot of questions this week. So let yourself be reflective and learn some things about yourself through this. So the first one is, how can my life be more of an adventure? For me, this full moon is in Sagittarius. Sagittarius energy is about adventure. And so there's an opportunity here to recognize where we aren't allowing ourselves to be adventurous or to let our lives be more of an adventure. Where are we trying to control it too much? Where do we need to put ourselves out there in such a way that would contribute in a positive way to life feeling like more of an adventure? Where are you overcomplicating something? Because I definitely feel like if we allow it, there's a lot of opportunities to spend too much time in our head this week and to get too stuck. How can we simplify some things? I said to people several times in my sessions today, how do we make this more simple? Or can you simplify this, because you are getting lost in the weeds with all the complications? At the end of the day, you just need to tune in with your intuition and start to take steps in that direction, and to be brave enough to do it. So we want to make sure that we are exploring how things can be simplified in such a way so that we can be taking action rather than getting stuck or caught up in the fear or caught up in all of the different ways that this could potentially go. And we're just thinking about, okay, what are my next steps? What do I need to focus on right now? The other thing that came through is, what is the truth that you are telling yourself that may not be true about you anymore? What is the truth that you are telling yourself that may not be true about you anymore? And as a follow-up question, how do I maybe need to live differently? So I'll share a little bit for me what's becoming clear. I've always said that Facebook is my platform. It is the place where I feel most comfortable. And I was sharing that today, and then I was realizing, wow, a lot is shifting for me in these other platforms. And while that may still feel true, I'm wondering if YouTube and some other platforms, maybe I'm shifting a little bit because I'm watching things shift with those a bit. Thanks to you guys, by the way. You guys have been amazing at liking, sharing, subscribing, all of the things. But I'm watching that shift, and maybe a truth that once felt like my truth is shifting, because hopefully, ideally, we're always changing. We're not staying stuck in the same thing. We're not focusing on the same things. We're not doing things exactly the same way all the time. And I've been letting myself shake it up and do things differently and put myself out there. And I'm watching that change, that truth for me. So that's just a small thing, but what is the truth that you're telling yourself that you're recognizing around this full moon maybe that is no longer true? Whatever that looks like for you. Probably something that's keeping you small or stuck or preventing you from living life as an adventure, preventing you from having the relationships that you want to have, the work that you want to be doing, the abundance that you want to have, whatever that is. But let yourself explore that. I think that this energy too is about making sure that we're just enjoying the ride. I have been talking a lot about detachment recently, and in fact, I taught a class on that in my membership. So you can check that out at claritybychristy.com if you're interested in the membership. I'm also in my membership doing my soul circle tomorrow, where I pull cards for everybody who's there. We talk about the topics. I answer their questions that they want to have answered. So that's tomorrow, 5:15 Eastern. If you are not in the membership and would love to join us, I would love to see you there. But anyway, I do have a class in that. But that is the goal right now, is to focus on detaching from specific outcomes, to not get too wrapped up in that. So whatever you need to do with that, if you need to distract yourself and refocus, I think that that's really helpful, especially if that focus is on you and your goals and the things that you want to create. So shifting your focus off of one thing that maybe you've been too focused on, that maybe you've put too much energy into and you're obsessing about it, you're thinking about it, pull your energy away from that and focus on something else. Typically, when we do that, that is what helps us to manifest that. So, and Jasmine's asking a question. Jasmine, I'm not pulling cards. This is a collective reading, so hopefully there's something here for you. I'm talking about what's happening here in the weekly energy. But if you want to have me pull a card for you, I'm doing that in my membership tomorrow. I put the link down below. So anyway, we want to be working on that detachment and just letting ourselves go with the flow, even if that flow looks crazy, even if that flow, we're not sure where that's going. I think part of this detachment too, and this is for dealing with your personal life, but this is also for what's happening in the collective, because it's about to get even more interesting. I will tell you that. It already is, but it's getting more interesting. And I'm smiling because I know that it's all just a show, and that it's all just happening around us. And I try not to get too connected and attached to all of that stuff, because once I get attached to all of that stuff, then I'm living in fear. And so what I want you to do, whether it's in your personal life, whether it's in the collective, what's happening is I want you to treat the world around you like it's a show, because it is. Right? It's all happening for us. It's all happening around us. And when we kind of take that step back and let it be a show rather than this thing that we're all caught up in, it allows us to detach a bit and to not be so caught up. And it allows us to see things from different perspectives. And I try to approach it not only as it's a show, but that it's an entertaining show. that I am so entertained, because the fact of the matter is I am very entertained. I'm very entertained by people. I'm very entertained by this world. And that's just the perspective that I approach it all from. I try not to take myself too seriously. I try not to take this world too seriously, because I find that when I'm in that energy, really good stuff happens for me. I feel better. My life is better. And so, but as soon as I get caught up in the fear and the worry and the not trusting God to work everything out for me, then I go in a anxiety spiral, and it does not feel good. So I want to invite you all to try to adopt a little bit of that mindset. It's going to help the world to feel more magical for you. And that's what I want you to look for. Look for the magic. Look for the indications that it's all just a show, and that it's all happening for us, and that everything is always working out for you. That is what you want to be looking for. You don't want to be looking for worst case scenario. You don't want to be looking for another example of evidence that things are just going to continue to be the way that they have been. You want to look for evidence that new and better is happening for you right now. And I want to encourage you to do that. So let's pull the cards. Let me know how this is resonating for you guys so far. Thank you so much for the comments, the likes, the subscribing to my YouTube, all of the things. So we have the Knight of Cups in reverse. I will pull the cards and then I will go over the meanings. The Eight of Cups makes sense. The King of Wands, again, makes sense. The Six of Cups. The Empress. Using a different deck today. And the Strength card in reverse. So let's talk about what these cards are talking about. Okay, the first thing is the Knight of Cups. So, and this is the Knight of Cups in reverse. So this makes a lot of sense. So the Knight of Cups, what I love about the Knight of Cups when it's upright, the Knight of Cups just knows how to put himself out there. He is so romantic. He takes the big romantic gestures. He puts his heart on the line. He asks for what he wants. He is willing to put himself out there in a way to take things to the next level. He is just led by his heart, and he lets his heart and his intuition lead him every step of the way. And so with this showing up in reverse, this is saying, where do you need to tune in with yourself and to let yourself be led by your heart? Where are you ignoring your heart? Where are you ignoring your sense of adventure? Where are you not putting yourself out there in a way that your heart is calling for you to put yourself out there, or your intuition is calling for you to put yourself out there? We are called to take action this week. We are called to put ourselves out there. And so where are you holding yourself back? Where are you hiding behind the armor that this knight has, rather than letting yourself open your heart in some way? The next card, the Eight of Cups. So maybe part of where you're feeling called to put yourself out there is to understand that it's time for better. And that's going to mean different things to different people, but you know it. There's a resonance that this will have for you. My throat is going crazy now. So maybe some of this is about speaking it, saying what you need to say, and to ask for better, to put yourself out there by asking for what you need, by asking what would make your experience better in some way, or to be willing to walk away from some things that are okay, that kind of work, but you know that there's more available. There's a sense that there's more available with some things potentially. And this is that willingness to move away from something and to move towards something else. Now, this could be that you're finally willing to take something to the next level, where you're like, I know that there's more, and I know that this can be even better, but I have to be willing to be vulnerable. I have to be willing to put myself out there. So asking for what you need and be willing to put it out there in some way, and to move, right? She's moving out of a space and she doesn't know where she's going. In fact, there's a volcano ahead of her, right? There is, I think that's a volcano. Let's see. That's how I'm seeing it right now. but she's moving in that direction and heading away. But where she's heading is really beautiful. So be willing. Don't be afraid to let go. Don't be afraid to say what you need to say. Say it without being cutting, without being unkind, but put yourself out there. The King of Wands. Talk about taking action, right? This is all about taking action. This is all about following your excitement, your passion, your heart, where you feel like you're being led, your fire. And this is about taking steps in that direction. This is about mastery. This is about leveling up. This is about stepping into a leadership role in some kind, or becoming the leader of your own life is the energy that I'm getting here. How are you feeling called to lead your own life? How are you feeling called to be your own coach? How are you feeling called to call yourself out on your bullshit and to just get the things that you need to get done, or to change the things that you've been sitting on for so long that you know that you need to change, that you know that you need to get to work on? Why does this always make my color so weird in the middle of the video? I don't know. But anyway, maybe I need to take action on figuring that out, right? But it's time to step into this. And this is like, the King of Wands is active leadership. So it's action. It's a willingness to take action and to move forward with some things, and to, I'm going to say it again, put yourself out there in some way. And maybe you're not comfortable up there on that throne in that leadership role, but that comfort and that confidence will come through allowing yourself to move through the experience. This is how we grow. This is how we develop confidence. Confidence is never going to come before the action. It's going to come after you take the action, after you move in faith, and then you develop the confidence on the other side of that. When you see, I was able to do that. I did it. And that's one of the most powerful ways to build confidence ever. And then we have the Six of Cups in reverse. How are you letting the past dictate your present? How are you allowing the pain and the disappointment from the past to impact you from experiencing joy in the present? Maybe there have been painful situations and your expectation is that what's happening now or where you're moving in the future is going to just be a repeat of the same. But why do you not trust yourself in the actions that you've already taken, but to also to take the actions that you need to take so that you don't repeat the past? The future in the present moment doesn't have to reflect the past. So it's okay to learn what we need to learn from the past, to close that up and to move forward. This energy this week is all about moving forward. It's all about allowing ourselves to trust and be vulnerable with the directions that we're feeling called to move, and to heal the past through embracing the present. That's so important in whatever that means for you. Hopefully that resonates. The next card is the Empress. So while we are taking action with this King of Wands, we're also spending time in our flow. We're letting things happen. We're detached from the outcome because we know that already we're creating great things. I think the focus here this week is to stay focused on like what you're intuitively feeling called to do without being too focused on where it's leading, or without being too focused on the outcome. So it's like, this is what I'm feeling called to do, but we don't even need to understand why we're feeling called to do it. In fact, I think if you just disconnect from that and you just trust that it's leading you somewhere good, letting that be general, I think that is going to lead you there. So allowing things to develop, enjoying the ride, I do feel like I had this image, and I forgot to mention this earlier, but I did get this sense of like a surge, like a water surge of just blessings that are coming in. And I think the more that we are detaching, the more that it's like the dam breaks and the water flows in and all of the blessings. I'm surprised that I don't have the 8 of Wands here, but I think that that's this King of Wands as well. Opportunities and incredible things happening, things that we're excited about, ideas coming through. And we're giving birth, right? In this card, she's pregnant. We're giving birth to something really beautiful right now. And as you listen to your intuition and you let yourself take the steps, it will lead you there. You might not know what's growing there in the belly, right? You might not know. You have a sense of it, but you won't know until you are further down the path. So trust the process. This also, I believe I pulled the Empress last week as well. And this is also about understanding where our standards are and understanding, especially with this 8 of Cups here. If something isn't showing up or someone isn't showing up in the way that it's meant to, that we need them to, or that we want at this particular point in our life, then we have to acknowledge that, and we have to recognize that it's not for us, whether that's right now or for good, right? This is about knowing your value, knowing your worth, and magnetizing from that energy. And people will either rise to meet the standard or they won't. And you get to watch and you get to see. Hey, sis, thank you. Carlos says he loves my hair. Thank you so much. It's giving a little bit of Laura Croft today, I think, you know, if it was a little bit longer. The last card that we have here. Oh, let me see Prakash's comment. Okay. Lately, my past pain and disappointment has been hindering me from being myself. Today started to feel a bit down out of nowhere. Okay, Prakash. So take a look at that, right? You're feeling that full moon coming in, and it's highlighting that for you because it's saying that doesn't have to dictate where you're going in the future. So let yourself work through that a little bit and acknowledge the pain. But also, this is a beautiful time to begin to write a new story for yourself. And this is true for all of us. It may require us to go deep. We have the Strength card in reverse. To dig deep and to really be willing to go places with ourselves that are scary. To me, this is like digging deep and being more vulnerable. But I also think that this Strength card here is showing up in reverse because this is saying it doesn't have to be so hard anymore. What if it gets to be easy? What if you just let your brain start to believe even a little bit that your work, your relationships, your money, your opportunities, whatever it is that you want to create in your life, your family, what if it gets to be easy? What if it doesn't have to be so hard? What if we don't always have to be so strong? What if we get to be living an adventure? Embracing the adventure that is life, treating the world and the people and the experiences around you like it's a show, but this is a show. This is your favorite show. This is an exciting show. This is a fun show. Rather than a hard show, a stressful show, a show that requires you to work so hard, to exhaust yourself to the point that you just don't feel like you can take the action that we're talking about taking. So this is about a willingness to let go of the story that we're telling ourselves that it has to be hard, or that all people are bad, or that all relationships are destined to be painful, that all work has to be hard, that anything new that we're starting has to be hard. And it's that willingness to rewrite that story. So this week is about rewriting your story. I want you to think about that. Ask yourself those questions. Let this full moon show you where you need to rewrite your story. And then your job is to start to focus on thoughts that feel better, thoughts that reflect the better story. And you're going to mess up on this. You're going to find yourself still in that old story, but start to tell the new story as often as you can. Go on a rampage in your car. Just speak it out loud. What is the new story? Write it down as though it's already happened. What is the new story? I would love to hear what your new story is if you want to share that. My new story is, and just start to write it as though it's already happening. I'm so grateful and thankful now that, and just start to write your new story. That is the script. That is what you are creating. And I believe that we can create a significant portion of that even just this week. This is a magical week. And I hope that you see that. And I hope that you feel that. I think this full moon is really going to spark a lot of insight and action, and potential is the word that I want to use. I feel like it's activating a potential within us that we maybe hadn't noticed before. So just let yourself be led. So those are your messages. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, whether you tuned in live or on the replay. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm sharing all kinds of things there. I'm going to be sharing even more things there. It's definitely becoming a bigger focus for me. So I hope that you will focus over there, subscribe over there, even if you follow me on my Facebook as well. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. I love you all. And I hope that you have a really magical week. Take care.